So today, I thought I want to share this video with you guys, about religion, whether there is a God. Um, Again, in my 50s, as you see, kind of getting older and maybe possibility, I know we're all mortal, right? It does, bring into a lot of questions whether there is a God. I'm going to show you, one video here.
Do you believe in God?
Every description of God that I've heard holds God to be all powerful, very typical, and all good. And then I look around and I see a tsunami that killed 250,000 people in Indonesia, an earthquake that killed 250,000 people in Haiti. And I see earthquakes and tornadoes and disease, childhood leukemia. And I see all of this and I say, I do not see evidence, both of those being true simultaneously. If there is a God, the God is either not all powerful or not all good.
Do you
Um, Anyway, I know this is going to be probably a controversial topic, but I think what l- I I like to think about religion and God in a few perspective, and again, that's only my perspective, right? I think the first question is, what is the purpose of religion? I did a little research, and I think intuitively we all kind of know. These are not in any particular order, but usually people say it's for meaning and purpose. Why am I here? What should I live for? Second is social cohesion, right? There are always these social group, it's not just Christians, Buddhists, and Islam. It's also specific, like Arab, Chinese, Japanese, Korean Christians, they kind of get into social cohesion. Moral framework, yeah, they talk about honesty, balance, family, charity, etc. Um, and although it teaches generally most religion teach you to be good, but we always see some hypocrisy. People who aren't that good, but they're religious anyway. Coping with death, I think this is pretty big. Especially if you're on the verge of death, to think that there's afterlife, salvation, or even in some religion, reincarnation, right? Coping with uncertainty. When you're uncertain about something, that's beyond your own control. It's good to think that you could pray to something of a higher power. Cooperation, again, group, kind of group, psychological comfort, prayer, hope, forgiveness. Um, Political, social organization, explanation of nature. There have been thousands of historical God, God of the sea, God of the thunder, God of rain, as a God of sun, et cetera, et cetera. Because we didn't know, what they were. And then also direct relationship with God. It's always good when we realize how vulnerable we are in many type of crises, or when we get sick or family gets sick, to feel that we have some type of connection with something more divine. Now, is there really a God? I think it's hard to prove that there is a God, but it's also hard to disprove that there is a God. Um, Now, I think Neil deGrasse Tyson, I mean, he's a scientist, right? He's Harvard grad scientist. Um, I think he, I think that is one of the stronger point, that most religions say God is all powerful and all loving. And you see evidence of all the suffering in the world. And yet the common teaching, I think, is, well, it's for free will. But I can't imagine something that is all powerful and all loving, all righteous, would allow so much nasty things to happen in this world based on freedom, right? To allow murder, serial killer, rapists, white collar criminals, war, or even disease. I mean, or even money, the existence of money that makes people fight over each other for it. Um, you know, is I if they're all powerful, they can't be all loving. And if they're all loving, they must have no power at all, right? I mean, you would think you would create a world that's just a lot better, a lot nicer. Um, and I think the other thought is, a lot of these religion, again, it serves all the purpose we talked about. And we didn't talk about control, right? All war, when they go to war, they always say God is on their side. Um, but to in most religion or God, they said, hey, they created human, right? And if you think about how big the universe is, there's 200, 400 billion stars in our own Milky Way galaxy, and there's trillions of galaxies. Again, it's very human-centric to think that God created us. And the fact is, they created bacteria before us, they created dinosaur before us, they created cockroaches before us. And, the modern human has only been around for anywhere from 200,000 years to 500,000 years. And it's also hard to imagine that, you know, I, I, I think there is a belief that, if you look at biology, you look at computer, it's amazing, right? Biology came first, right? Four nucleic acid is shared among all living species, and they make up the DNA, which is basically the program language for biological life. And when you have a certain type of DNA with a certain expression, environmental influence, then that set of DNA is expressed a certain way to create all the diversity of life. And four nucleic acid. Now we get into computer programming, the digital life, digital intelligence is mainly 0 and 1 in different orders. And so when you look at that, you do think maybe there must be an intelligent design. But again, I can't rule that out, but it's not a person sitting, you know, in the sky, come in here and pretend to die, and then, right, they're eternal, right? I mean, if they created this universe, why would they pretend to die in front of you, pretend to suffer in front of you, and then come back, die, and come back in 3 days? I mean, right? Um, so again, it's hard to imagine that there is a creator that I mean, imagine a person sitting up there and they see everything, they hear everything that you do, like whether you're pooping, whether you're doing all type of stuff. I mean, it's just hard to imagine someone would have that type of wavelength. And then why would they do that when there's so much disease, so much problem in the world they could solve and make better? And anyway, but the other side of it, it is incredible how simple the biological language is, DNA, four nucleic acid, and also the computer languages. Um, Now, there's also been this talk of maybe we're just all in a simulation. If you have a civilization that's 100 million years ahead of us, maybe we're just part of the computer simulation. Mm, I don't know about that, but as far as us living day-to-day basis, everything feels real, right? When you cut yourself, when you hurt yourself, sprain your ankle, all the struggles and happiness you have in life, they felt very real. When you're tired, right? But again, can I 100% rule out we're in a simulation? I can't. Now, God and religion, I think, does serve a purpose. Um, but I think it exists in our thoughts. Because again, there's no physical evidence that you could, anybody said they met God. Um, and again, all the sufferings, all the bad things that's happening in the world, there's no evidence that there's someone all powerful and all loving. But it exists in our brain, just like the devil exists in our brain. And if you think about our brain is just a bunch of neural connections, right? And we're recreating that in computer form. And it's hard to still understand how human brain, what makes me different than someone else. It's all these neural connections. And I know we're born with different sets of neural connections, so based on DNA, genetic. So we're all a little different at birth, and those connections are modified through our experiences in life, and even materials, things we eat, things we experience in life, they modify those neural connections. And so then we have memory, we have belief in God. So the minute that we die, those neural connection died. And it's hard to imagine that there's something soul that exists separate of that. I've seen it, many times when people have brain injuries and their particular brain dead and people pull the plug and they die. Um, because we are all stardust and our neural connection determines our memory. And if you say I have a soul, well, if a lion eats me or a tiger eats me, I become that. My molecule is recycled and becomes that lion. Just like if we eat cows, chicken, and vegetable and fruits, there's no soul to the fruit. They become us, right? So it's almost like I guess you could transfer those molecules to me, but is there a separate entity? Does the fruit have a soul? Does the cow have a soul? Does the dog have a soul? No, I don't think they do. Now, do they have feelings? Yes, because the feeling exists in our neural connections. But the minute that neural connection is dissolved into molecule, when we absorb them, when we bury ourselves under the ground, those neural connections are gone. And if you have a little injury to the brain, you're not there. Like, and so consciousness and soul is part of neural connection. And why I believe God function again, God exists in all our brains, and it's very powerful. It's almost like the your thoughts become your reality. And if you believe in God, hey, God's gonna you know help me or want something to happen. Sometimes that again, it's all within your neural connection. It's in your brain. And that can drive you to do a lot of good things and a lot of bad things, right? Whether it's war, killing people, or it's being kind to other people. So religion does have a very strong influence, but sometimes I think it's a little too strong because the output may not always be that great. And you see that in various type of religion. Um, anyway, I'm curious about what you guys think. I know it's many of you probably have very strong thoughts about, a lot of these topics. Now, I think I had a statistic here. I think there are over 2 billion Christians, 2 billion Islamic religion, and I believe there's 500 million Buddhists, and then there's the Hindus. So someone's got to be wrong. But like I said before, um, I think religion is a very powerful thing because it exists in our brain, and our brain is a very powerful thing. Whatever you believe is true in your head, and that's something I'm still learning, right? Because when we're young, we're raised by parents and environment, and we're pre-programmed with a certain set of belief, certain set of fears. And I do notice that that had impact in my life. It driven me to make certain decisions. Some of them are bad. Some of them are nice. I'm generally kind and I'm generally very empathetic. But there are many other thoughts and pre-programs that made me make some bad choices in life. And anyway, thank you for watching. I'm very grateful, and subscribe if you want to support this channel. Thank you.